Okay. Lest you think the library only has paperbacks, my first book we're going to talk about today is actually on my Kindle in ebook format from the library. So, did you know there are actually rather a few people that suspect that at least the first American moon landing was a hoax? July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Soundstage. Lights, camera, action, cue Neil, none of it happened. No one questions, however, that the motherland can, will, and is putting a man on the moon in Sally Gardner's Maggot moon. Because in Standish Treadwell's world, you question the government, you disappear. Like Standish's parents disappeared, like Standish probably should have disappeared when he was a baby. In Standish Treadwell's world, if you question the government, if you do anything against the government, if you even are anything that goes against the government's ideals for purity, you disappear. And Standish Treadwell, with his two different colored eyes and his severe dyslexia, is an impurity, an undesirable. In a world of train track thinkers, dyslexic Standish literally can't help but think differently. He's lucky he wasn't disappeared as a baby. He's lucky every day he gets to walk home again, even if home is in the slums of Zone 7. But only so lucky. Standish isn't just bullied by his classmates, he's bullied by his teacher. And every day, the buildings in his slum Zone 7 are crumbling a little bit more. Every day, food is harder to find, and the only person in the world Standish has is his Gramps. That is until Hector comes along. Hector, who is handsome and brave and smart and kind and like Standish. He likes that Standish thinks differently. He likes that Standish has a wild imagination that they use to build themselves entire fantasy worlds to escape this one. They think they'll be best friends forever. But when they find something that makes them question the government's moon landing, it brings to mind all sorts of other questions. If, in fact, the government is staging the moon landing, what other things is the government lying about? And the government can't really afford questions. People who ask questions disappear. And then Hector and his entire family disappear. And Standish is left to wonder, is the government staging the moon landing? And what happened to Hector? And will Standish, in fact, survive finding out the answer to either of those questions? Sally Gardner's Maggot Moon. Next up, our second book has more questions than answers, too. It is Richelle Mead's Vampire Academy. If you haven't heard, this is coming out in theaters in, I think, a week, actually. So you have that to look forward to. So, the tagline for the movie is actually, they suck at school, which is a pretty accurate description, actually. Lissa and Rose, our two main characters, were never particularly studious to begin with, but they ran away from boarding school 2 years ago. So by the time the guardians of the school finally dragged them back to school, they've had 2 years off and they are severely behind in their studies. Lissa is taking sophomore classes even though she's a senior, and Rose is forced to endure hours of private tutoring every day on top of her regular classes. And the title probably gave it away, but Vampire Academy, it is a boarding school for vampires. In Richelle Mead's world, there are two kinds of vampires, though. We have the traditional creepy bad guy killer vampires that are the undead. That's the Strigoi. They're the bad guys. But then we also have the Moroi, which are alive vampires, and I kind of think of them a little bit like half fairy-ish. They have magical powers. They can control earth, air, wind, or fire. And they are the good guys. They're taught to only use their magic in sort of peaceful means. Unfortunately, since the Moroi are actually alive, they're mortal, they can be killed. And combine that with their sort of pacifist stance in using their magic, and they have been dying in large quantities for a long time as the bad guys Strigoi have been killing them off. So, the Moroi sort of teamed up with the Damphir, which are half vampire, half human. And the Damphir basically train their entire lives to be lifelong bodyguards to the Moroi. Lissa is a Moroi princess. She is going to grow up to lead this section of the vampire people. And Rose is a Damphir in training to be her guardian. They have this intense bond that sort of mythical. People have heard that it could happen, but nobody has seen it in, millennia. Rose can actually feel everything that Lissa feels, and sometimes even fall into her head and see the world through Lissa's eyes, which is very useful, of course, as a bodyguard, but something that they've been trying to keep a secret because it's so strange. That secret comes out pretty early on in the book, but there is a second secret, something that Lissa can do that no one else can do with their magic. And as we get into this book, it seems like somebody has figured that out. They keep trying to basically trick Lissa into using this bit of magic that she has. Now, they were told by someone who mysteriously disappeared shortly thereafter, so they think it's sort of a life or death thing that they cannot let anybody know about Lissa's magical abilities. So, the questions that come up in the book are, who knows about Lissa's secret? What do they want with her and with her ability? And does Rose stand a chance with her really hot tutor? Pressing questions. And I actually probably shouldn't lie to you. Really only one of them is answered in this book because there are 5 more after this one. So if you like it, you have plenty more to read. All right. And our last book. I think it's probably pretty fair to call these all kind of quest books. And our last quest is really not so much for answers. It's more a quest for love. In Blood Red Road, I'm sorry, you can't really see that. There you go. By Moira Young. The only question that this book really makes you face is, how far would you go to get back the person that means everything in the world to you? I'm just going to read you the first page. I promise it's really short. It sort of sets the tone for the whole book. Lou got born first. On midwinter day when the sun hangs low in the sky, then me. 2 hours later. That pretty much says it all. Lou goes first, always first, and I follow on behind. And that's fine. That's right. That's how it's meant to be. And Saba does follow. Lou is Saba's twin brother. They've grown up together, lived every moment together. They are as close as human beings can be. And when raiders kill Saba's father and steal her brother away, Saba answers that question. How far would you go? And the answer is literally to the edges of the earth. Lou goes across the desert, captured by the raiders, and Saba follows right after. I kind of think of this in terms of, if you liked Katniss Everdeen, you were going to love Saba. Of course, it's not as easy as just walking across the desert to get her brother back. That would be a super boring story. Starts off with some difficulties. For example, Saba tries to leave behind her little sister, but Saba's little sister is not the stay behind in the district and quietly continue her medical education sort of little sister. Saba's little sister Emmy, is the steal a horse and follow you anyway kind of little sister. So the two of them are stuck out in the desert by themselves. They sort of, fall into this new family habit of getting themselves kidnapped. And then Saba is forced to become a cage fighter to keep her little sister safe and unharmed when they've been kidnapped. So she's sort of in this gladiator-style entertainment for the depraved citizens of, big city Hopetown and their evil, depraved king, who's also apparently a little nuts. Saba finds out that he's planning to murder Lou in, a strange ritualistic ceremony to help the Chal harvest. The Chal being the drug that's basically keeping everybody so drugged out of their minds that they don't care that they have a crazy despot king and they're living in a dystopian novel. So, Saba knows she only has until Midsummer Eve to get to her brother's side before they're going to kill him in this ceremony. She teams up with this awesome group of girl revolutionary warriors called the Freehawks, fellow cage fighter Jack, and them plus her little sister Emmy. They all go on this epic journey across, terrible terrain and the king's goons coming after them and even giant killer worms at one point. Super adventure. All to make it to her brother's side in time. In the course of things, of course, Saba trying not to get herself killed, trying not to get her little sister killed, trying not to fall in love with Jack. No guarantees, though. Alright, and I will leave you with this last awesome piece of news. The rights to this book were acquired by Ridley Scott, who is a well-known action sci-fi director. So the chances that we see this on the big screen, too, probably pretty good. I'll leave you with that.